And so I wanted to paint it, but I think, like, my parents aren't gonna want a picture of me sitting on the toilet. You know?
Well, they're gonna get one.
Art, horse, art, horse, art, horse, art, horse, art, too cheap to buy jingles. Art, horse, art, horse, art, too cheap to buy jingles.
Hey, so this is it.
Horse, art.
All right. Can I say welcome to Art Horse this time?
Yeah.
Because you got to do it last time.
Yeah,
Are you ready?
can do it, yeah.
Okay. Hi. Welcome to Art Horse, episode 12.
We are delivering to you a silly and serious podcast about creativity and stepping out of your comfort zone.
Woohoo!
You're Fiona.
Oh yeah, I'm Fiona.
That's Fiona.
I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jess. Yeah, and this is it.
This is the thing that we do. Before we get started, we want to let you all know that anything that we talk about that is some sort of like visual, that needs some sort of visual accompaniment will be
Okay.
will be on our Instagram, which is at arthorsepod. So go check it out and you'll be able to see the things that we talk about there. Probably not everyone who's listening is on Instagram or wants to be on Instagram. So we're thinking of like a mailing list or like a website.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to expand our breadth and make sure that
Like to get more
This is
accessible.
more accessible.
Because if you don't want to be on Instagram, you shouldn't have to be on Instagram. That's just...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got to be on Instagram if they don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a confusing place.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's taken me many, many years to figure it out, frankly. Yeah, so
How was your week?
it was bad.
Ooh.
It was like in between the lines bad. Like it was like a normal week. I did
Which lines?
all the things.
What does that mean?
Like it means like high functioning depression, I think.
Oh, okay.
Like where you're doing the things, like you're having the showers and eating the food and reading books even and like following your agenda plans and things like that. But like whilst doing that and in the like moments in between those things, you're like, you know?
Yeah.
And I know why. Like it's pandemic and it's being separated from my partner for probably more than a year. Which is really like hitting me lately. And so I've been having like just, totally normal week. I've been learning to drive. I've been like helping my mom with her computer, like all the normal human things that people do. And then just feeling like sad in my heart all the time. I don't know. And it doesn't feel bad enough to be like, hey, Jess, I feel kind of blue. Like it's not bad enough to like reach out about, It's just bad enough that it kind of
Feels a bit sad all the time.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you know what I mean.
I'm sorry that's happening.
On that note.
I feel like you are so not alone in that.
Yeah, I think it's a really common thing. And so I wanted to bring it up because I know that a lot of people feel capital B bad, but it's not presenting in any way that feels legitimate and it's not, or feels like even worth it to do anything about, you know what I mean?
And like even like you are literally taking actions towards your values. Like you're learning to drive, you're reading books, you're doing all the right things, and it's
I'm
still
doing the
sad.
things. I'm taking the meds. I'm doing the activating things, and it's still just like, well.
Well, I think there's something about that stuckness. Like there's something about a big pause button on life.
I hope your week was nice. It was better than mine. How was your week?
I feel like I've had a pretty good week. I mean, I hate this to be like the Jess complains hour because I feel like I complain all the time. But like something that I did feel big this week was like jealousy. Like I think that comes from feeling stuck and like I think I've been saying it a lot more. Like I think usually when I'm jealous, I would just stew. But I think because from the artist way, I know that jealousy is like a map to the things that you actually want. I've been paying so much more attention to what I'm jealous of. Yeah. So this week in the jealousy bulletin, I've been jealous of people with families. I've been jealous of like other people doing the exact same thing that I am doing. Like,
oh, that got me good. Because it's so real.
It is so real. Like, literally, I was out. It was so beautiful out yesterday. Like, the first full day of sun we've had all summer. The water was totally calm. I was out on the lake with, like, my dad, and there were these two ladies on kayaks, and they kind of, like, came around the bend, and we were, like, kind of far enough away from them, but, like, found carries. And you could tell just by, like, the way one of them was talking that she had been, like, wronged. And she was, like, telling her story to her friend so that her friend would be like, that is bullshit. You know, like, and I was like, you know what I miss is I miss, like, in-person friendships. Like, I miss those, like, I miss that. And I think, like, the things that I miss about not pandemic are, like, becoming more nuanced all the time. Like, I don't know. Like, it was so stupid. Like, I was out on the lake paddling around. It's beautiful. We can see all the fish, all the junk on the bottom, which we'll talk about later because it just really pumped me up.
Oh, God.
But, like, in a big way, I'm, like, looking at all these people with these, like, big families and, like, the kids, I can hear them screaming that the water is cold. And I'm like, I'm jealous of this. It's so silly because that is something, I wish I could just enjoy that for what it is. But when I hear that, I go, like, ugh. Like,
okay, wait, it's so funny. It's so funny when you said, I'm jealous of people doing the exact same thing that I am. Because I feel that so hard. Because it's like, for example, if I were to be kayaking with somebody and then, like, these two people come kayaking by, I'm like, I bet they're having more fun than me.
Oh my God, that is so it. That is so it. And, like, I have felt that my whole life because, like, my parents had big families and, like, they had, like, lots of siblings and it was basically just me. Like, my brother was a lot older than me. And so, and we lived kind of in the middle of nowhere. So, like, still live. That's, like, where I am right now. But, like, I had these imaginations, like, in high school when everyone was partying, like, my parents obviously wouldn't let me drive me into town to go to a party, you know? But, like I had these visions in imaginations of, like, everyone in town playing street hockey or something, like, all together in this, like, community. And then I am alone. And I think I still feel that, like, today, like, when I see those kids jumping off the boat, I'm like, I want that. Like, I want that sort of, there's so many ups and downs to everything. Like, nothing is perfect, obviously. There's a lot of, like, not fun things that come with that, I think. But, like, I have just that yearn for that. And when I see it, I feel like pain.
Even when it's, like, to do the thing is totally accessible, but the feeling that comes along with it is, like,
And I think there's also something I realized about, like, children. I don't think that having 10 kids would fill that hole in me. I think what I want is to be a kid among other kids. And I hear them, like, screaming that the water's cold, and I see that, like, enthusiasm and that, like, amped up level of energy. And, like, it's funny because they were swimming and then we went swimming and we were like, it's a little cold. You know, like, it's so, like, reserved in reactions. Like, there's no extra energy to expend
like
on.
the thrill of something.
Like, I miss the thrill. Or I want the thrill. And I, like, maybe I just want, because I have felt that in adulthood. And I just want more of it. And it's sad that usually if it wasn't the pandemic, like, you could pursue that. And now it's a little harder. But it'll come back. Everything is going to be okay in a few years.
We think.
We hope. So that's the jealousy report from this week. Okay. So you've passed on the candle painting, it looks like, according to this. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Because of my aforementioned dead heart. I didn't feel any painting inspo this week, so I just didn't do it because I remembered you saying, like, and if you don't want to do it, that's fine.
Yeah, it's
like,
totally.
Because if I'm not feeling it, like, there's no mojo to it, and I don't think there is with this painting. Like, I don't think it's something that I even want to finish, so I think I'm just gonna let it become something else in the future when I need a canvas
that you
I'll
love.
Just paint over it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really love that idea because I think I'm not super superstitious, but in this way I might be.
Superstitious.
Super that I feel like if you're in a bad mood when you're painting something, it comes through almost.
I think so too.
I feel like when I'm angry or if I don't feel like painting, you can tell from my painting.
Yeah. Well, because what it is for me is when I'm in a bad mood or I'm angry and then I start painting, it's because I'm trying to force myself to feel better. So there's like an impatience to the painting. So I'm like, this has to become something really good that's going to make me feel proud of myself.
Right.
So I hurry through it and I don't enjoy the process and I don't get lost in it.
Oh my God. I feel that all the time.
It turns out bad.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Do you want to tell me about treasure hunting? I want to know about treasures.
Yeah. So yesterday we went out on the kayaks and then later, like my dad put this big old boat in the water and then we went out looking. Like my favorite thing to do is like stand on the front of the boat and like look at the bottom. I love that so much because there's so much stuff down there. Like during the war, there was like houses that were, I don't know, actually, it was probably after the war that the houses were there, but like during the war, they just dumped stuff in the lake. And so they dumped all of these tires in the lake. There's like barrels. That's like the two most common things that you find. But like you also find all of this other stuff. Like there's pieces of boats and like towards where there used to be a town, there's like an old fire hydrant on the bottom. There's like radiators and I'm like, so we're like going by and like looking at this stuff and like, this is like a free radiator. This is like better than being at the dump. Like looking through the dump. Like when I was a kid, we used to go to the dump like back before there was like a big fence around it and we would like look through stuff and like I remember finding a marble that I loved. I found like small toys. There was a sweater that I wore for like 5 years. Like
good stuff at the dump.
There's some good stuff. People throw good stuff away. And so there's all of this stuff that's like made of steel at the bottom of the lake. And like it wasn't an artist date because I wasn't alone, but it was so refilling my image well, which was really cool. And also it made me think of like that 5 lives exercise, which is like in the beginning of The Artist's Way where you're supposed to like, what are 5...
wait, I have it right here. Do you want me to look for it? Imaginary lives. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? Yeah. The point of these lives is to have fun in them. Yeah.
Totally. Which is such like an interesting question. And we talked about it, I think, in like episode 2 or 3 or something where we were like, oh man, like this exercise really brought out a lot of stuff in me. And now I'm thinking like, oh, like another life that I would have loved to have would be like a treasure hunter. Or like I used to want to be an underwater archaeologist because like of just how interesting it is when stuff is on the bottom of the ocean or on the bottom of the lake that has just been there for so long. It was funny because I was so excited when we were on the boat that like my dad couldn't help but get excited. Like he was kind of excited too. Like, we were looking at stuff and like, look at that fire hydrant, man! Free fire hydrant! Free radiator! Like look at all this stuff! And so he was kind of excited about it, but like I don't, like he doesn't want to go get it really, but like maybe I could convince him because I don't want to like, I don't know. There's stuff that's really close to the shore that I could like pick up and then spray off. Like the problem is that there's leeches on everything and everything, like, so that's kind of gross. But like I love that. Like I love finding lost stuff. So I think like treasure hunter would have been a really fun life. And then also historian would have been an interesting life, but like only historian about things that I care about. You know? Not like doing projects for other people, but like there's so many things like that I wish just had a sign that told a story. Or like whenever I go, I feel like I've said this before maybe on the podcast, but like we went to the Wellington Zoo in New Zealand when we were there and I was just so the way that they told stories about where each individual animal came from and like and I feel like that's so connects you to the world almost.
When we go to those conservation areas and stuff, I always want to read what's on the little placard things. Because it's like, I want to know what's the story of this place.
Yeah. I think that sums it up so well. Like, what's the story of this place? And like, that gets me with photos. It gets me with the guest book things that we were talking about last week. Like, just to be a historian and collect and tell old stories would be such a cool thing. And so the second half
totally would.
The other part of the 5 lives thing is like, what parts of these lives can you like bring into your real life? Like, it's not just like only imagining, it's also integrating almost.
Yeah.
And I feel really good about that, I guess. Like, I feel like that's an accessible thing.
It's so cool that you can just go treasure hunting like in the lake by your house. Yeah,
and like in the woods by the house, like, because when the army came through and built the highway, they just left everything, basically. Like, they just kind of trashed the place.
Oh my God.
And so there's a lot of like rusty old stuff. As they are wont
to do.
Yeah, totally. And like, I think it's really interesting that they say that some of these things are historic sites and shouldn't be moved. I'm like, that's not right, I don't think. Like,
Wait, what?
Well, like
what?
So if a plane crashes, it becomes a historic site, and you're not supposed to move it. And like, maybe there's something about that I don't get, but like, I don't get it.
I don't know.
I think that like, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, especially, okay, so the weird part is that draws this line between treasure hunter and historian is they have these sites, but they're just trash on the ground, basically. Like, that's what they are. There's no plaque saying this plane crashed in 1945 on its way to do this. Everybody survived. You know, it's just literally rotting debris. Like, you know, and I feel like that's not what it should be. Like, I feel like if you're going to leave it there, you should at least explain it, because eventually it's going to be garbage. You know, like in 100 years, no one's going to know. There's not going to be any record of.
It's super interesting. It makes me think of something that I came across in a novel the other night that I was reading about, like the way that like museum curators and historians frame things. So like what they put a frame around is called art, and what they put a frame around is called history, and how much power that gives them.
Whoa. Yeah.
It was like a comment by an art teacher in this book about how, you know, this museum has only displays 10% of the works that it has. You should go to this museum and ask them to show you the things they have that they don't show. So there's that whole aspect of like they decide what gets shown. And then this whole thing of like, if you come across something in the wilderness, it's like a crashed plane. At what point is it of historical significance? Like
totally.
when there's a plaque, or when somebody has like made a little write up, or I don't know. It's like interesting to think about what is history and what is art, and those are really big questions.
You're saying like, does it become history just because you put a plaque, or is it already history kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. And like, and what do we decide to put plaques around, and what do we decide not to put plaques by? And I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because like I was talking to someone the other day, and they just didn't. They were a little bit older, and they just didn't understand like why all the statues are coming down. And she was saying like, that's history, and I'm like, okay, but like there's all of this other like that's like one tiny minuscule part, not minuscule, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's this complete other side that wasn't told, that is history and just wasn't told. So like what?
Yeah.
Like where do you know? I don't know. I'm not.
It's like Adolf Hitler was also history, but we don't put up statues fawning over him.
Totally.
And nobody's forgotten him either. So
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I think that's silly.
It is silly. And I mean, I'm not super prepared to talk about that, but I just think that's an interesting parallel.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
What's a photo project that went nowhere?
Okay, so this was like a thing where I was like, you know, sometimes you're like struck by an idea that feels really good. And you can picture it in your mind, and you're like, I must do this.
Yeah.
So the other day, I got Greg to take like 100 photos of me sitting on the toilet.
What? Okay, cool.
And cool. Some of them turned out really good. Like they were kind of exactly what I wanted them to be. And so what I had originally wanted to do was to paint myself sitting on the toilet. I only wanted one picture. I just made him take a bunch because, you know.
Because that's funny.
Well, because I wanted to get it right, you know. Like, I wanted the right, like, pose. And so it's, like, me sitting on the toilet, like, leaning over, looking at my phone with one hand, and then my face is resting on my hand, resting on my knee. And it's, like, quite a nice picture.
Check it out on Instagram.
Do you want me to send you a picture of me sitting on the toilet?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, I'm going to send you the best one. Okay. Obviously. It's me sitting on the toilet. Here it comes. It's quite beautiful because of the light.
It is. It is beautiful.
Like, I love
this. This is not what I was expecting at all. Wow, Jess, that's really beautiful.
But, okay, so then, like, we took a bunch of them like that, and then the sun, like, went down that day in a nice way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the way the light is hitting you from behind is really beautiful.
It's really, like, shining up my buttery rolls is what's happening. Yeah, so I really like the way that the light is, like, on the wall from the window.
Yeah. Yeah, and the bag of toilet paper behind you.
Yeah, totally. And, like, the reading material kind of splayed out on the thing, and, like, the toilet paper roll is actually empty. It's just kind of, like, a really interesting thing. And so I wanted to paint it, but I think what's held me back from painting it is, like my parents aren't gonna want a picture of me sitting on the toilet. You know?
Well, they're gonna get one.
But, like, I think, like, there's sometimes when you paint something and it adds to the photo that you painted it from. Like, it becomes its own beautiful thing. And then sometimes the photo, you could never paint something that would do it, not justice, but, like, you couldn't paint it better than the photo is. I felt kind of stuck because I, like, didn't really want to paint it, and then I have this, like, painting of me sitting on the toilet. Like, I think if I was at home in my own apartment, I would. That would be fine. And then I was gonna maybe paint it on, like, my iPad or something, and, like, but that's so much harder and less pleasurable, I think. And so I kind of got stuck, even though it felt like a really good idea. And then, you know, sometimes if you don't act on a good idea, the magic goes away, almost.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
And so I feel like...
I'm really sad. I want you to paint this.
Like, what I was picturing was, like, maybe my underwear around my feet and, like, my bra straps around my arms. And, like, looking at my phone with the light behind. And I feel like it captured that. And, like, the bra strap is twisted on my arm. Like, you know, it just looks so average. Like, it looks so normal. And
yet super special. And okay, you know what it looks like?
What?
Like, it almost harkens to those old paintings where the light is coming from a weird place and the person, this, like, woman has their head bowed in, like, reverence or something. Wait. You know what I mean?
Kind of?
I don't know. It's something about the light and the shadows and, like, the look on your face, and I don't know. I'm in love with this photo. If you don't paint it, I will.
Please paint it.
Oh my god, I will. And I will not even come close to doing this photo justice. But it's kind of cool. Like, you took this photo in order to be, like, a reference for your ultimate work of art, and then the photo itself is, like, a total hit smash.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Greg, who took 100 of them of me sitting on the toilet.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
Very well done, Greg.
Yeah. But I also, like, we took a bunch of other ones when I was wearing different underwear that's, like, not branded. It's just red. And I feel like the red underwear is so much, it adds some strangeness to the painting that's really, or not painting, but photo that's really interesting. But the light is different. It's not quite as nice as this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like the blue, the peach and the blue.
Like the bath mat?
Together. The bath mat and the bag of toilet paper behind you.
Oh, yeah.
How they're, like, talking to each other and then they're just surrounded by all of this peach. I love it.
You know what? I didn't even really notice that. Like, I looked at this and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, this is a perfect painting, but there's that damn toilet paper bag in the back. But it does feel
works.
more... It works. Like, I guess the alternative would be, like, there's a toilet brush back there, and that would have been interesting. I mean, but yeah, like it just turned out really well, but I got stuck. So if you feel like painting it, you have free reign to paint.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
If that makes you feel inspired, but don't do it if it doesn't.
It does. It does. This would be like the hardest thing I've ever done, but I
like,
could try.
I don't know, you're really good at painting what you see, I think, in a way that like, that is really difficult, I think.
We'll see. I have a really big canvas that I haven't done anything with. I could just, let's see.
I would just shit. That would be like a friggin' masterpiece.
It's like 12 inches by 20 inches or something. It's like, it's not huge, but
that seems huge. Like 20 inches is pretty friggin' big. I don't know.
1 second.
Like that's almost 2 feet.
Oh no, it's 12 inches by 16.
That's still pretty big.
Yeah, it's big.
I remember this idea, and I don't remember where it came from, but the idea that like painting is to like add something that isn't in the photo, almost like add your lens. And I think that happens automatically. I don't think anybody maybe really tries. You just draw what you see, and then it turns out that what you see is a different thing. So I took this picture, or Greg took this picture of me sitting on the toilet, and then I also tried to take a bunch of pictures of like me stepping into the shower, and they look so much, I didn't like get any good ones. I got the one that I got was so bad that I stopped trying because it was such a bad photo. But like it looks nothing like what I see in my brain when I look at my body looks nothing like what my body looks like.
Yeah.
And so those photos did not make the cut.
Okay.
But I love the sort of peachy color in the light.
I love it.
So that's the photo project that went nowhere.
Might go somewhere.
Yeah.
I would love to see you do it, obviously, but if you're not going to, then I call dibs.
I feel like you should do it. I'm like, I don't know. I might do it eventually.
Or we both do it.
Huh?
Yeah. Or we both do it.
That would be fun.
And then we'll have people rate which one is better.
No, please don't.
Yeah, no, it's like the worst thing I've ever said.
I can't compete. Don't.
Oh, God. Now I feel excited. Now I feel excited to paint because I didn't feel excited before.
Sometimes it just takes the right
reference or the right idea.
Yeah, totally. So you've been thinking about Amanda Palmer.
I have.
Reading. So what's that?
Girl. Okay. So I read this book that you sent me called The Art of Asking, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Let People Help by Amanda Palmer. And it gave me so many feelings.
Like what?
Oh God. Okay. Like a lot of, I don't know, because there's a lot of things that I really, really loved about this book. And then a lot of things that she said that I was like, like I didn't feel like I agreed, or they made me feel uncomfortable or whatever. And so I thought, well, it'd be more interesting if I took something that made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Amanda Palmer, her whole thing is ask for what you want/need and somebody might provide. And that it's not harmful to ask for things because people can just say no.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's a really bad like condensing of her whole philosophy. That doesn't really do it justice.
Well, I think like there's all of this context around her. Like, I guess some examples of her asking for things are like her dressed up as a bride in a square asking for, without saying anything, but like asking for money, like with a hat outside. And like, what else? Like sleeping on people's couches on tours. And like just asking the crowd
for musicians to come and play with her, asking for people to bring food to her after the show, asking to basically build this like collective effort. Like her art and her tours and the things that she creates are basically collective efforts.
Right.
Which I think is really cool.
She seems to have been very successful at creating a collective thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's her thing, and on the one hand, I love it because the thing about it that makes me feel really good is people often want an opportunity to help other people, but people aren't given that opportunity very often. especially when it's like it's somebody that I'm gonna not know because they don't know her, they're her fans, but they love her and they want to help her. And so it's like, okay, give them the opportunity to help. That'll make their day. Like if I had the opportunity to like make dinner for Michelle Branch, I would shit with happiness. Like I just love her. Like I love her so much. And so if I could give her something or do something for her, that would be so wonderful. And I think that carries on to like the people in your life. Like you don't have to be like a celebrity for this to be like a thing that's good. Like there are people in your life that love you and they want to do things for you. And so if you need something, the whole thing is like just ask and people will be happy to provide, basically. I like that about it. And then I also have this other feeling that is, I guess, a negative feeling. Okay, so
you're allowed to not like stuff. Can I just say?
I know.
You're allowed to be critical. You're allowed to have critical thought.
I feel like I'm such a critical person and I'm trying to like balance it out with the things that I do really like.
I think it is important to say like that you do like stuff and then also that you don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So on page 100, if you have the book, she's talking about, she kind of explains this whole philosophy with these two different terms. She calls them minimal DIY and maximal DIY. So for example, minimal DIY is you're working on a music project and you don't have the right kind of microphone, so you just use a different one. Maximal DIY is you use Twitter, some kind person might lend you the right one. So she goes through all these examples. Like minimal DIY would be you run out of gas on a long stretch of road and you take the empty canister and you start walking. Whereas maximal DIY is just like stick out your thumb, somebody will pick you up. That whole kind of thing.
So one is like doing without asking and the other one is asking?
Yeah. So minimal DIY doesn't rely on trust, it relies on ingenuity. Maximal DIY relies on trust and ingenuity. You have to ask with enough grace and creativity to elicit a response, and you also have to trust the people you're asking not to ruin your recording session, not to poison your food, not to bludgeon you with a hammer as you sit in their passenger seat.
Cool. Great.
Which I really like. I like because like... What?
Like that's scary to me. I have a hard time trusting in that way.
I know. I do too, but I want to so badly. Like I want to so badly, but I read this and I was like, why does this make me feel like I can't do that? And so I tried to like journal a little bit and analyze, why do I feel like I can't ask in that way for things? I was like, you know what? My instinct when I have a problem is minimal DIY. Figure it out your fucking self. And just like, if you have to like walk somewhere for like hours in blisters, do it because you don't want to call somebody and ask for a ride or whatever. And like, I've been getting better at that lately. Like as a very good example, there was one day I was going grocery shopping and I walked because I didn't want to ask for a ride. I walked to the grocery store and then I got there and I started getting really like dizzy and sick. And so I called my mom to come pick me up. Whereas earlier, I guess I wouldn't have done that. I would have just powered through. But that's beside the point.
Or like been ruined for the day after kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Or I would have like fainted on the way home or something awful, like really bad. But my fear is if I were to ask somebody to bring me food for whatever reason, like I'm sick, I'm at home, and I call somebody and say, hey, can you bring me like some ramen or whatever? I feel like if I were to try this whole maximal DIY thing where she says you throw the problem out to other people and they'll help you solve it. I feel like if I did that, I would be causing an imbalance and I would be making myself a burden on other people and I would be causing myself to be in debt to them. And those are things that are like a huge, huge, huge block for me. And I've actually like talked specifically with my therapist about feeling like a burden. So like I know that this is something that I need to work on, but I have huge guilt over taking and not giving back. So remember you sent me an article, I think it was when you were reading this book, you sent me this article about askers versus guessers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Sarah sent me to that because Sarah's listening.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sarah, thank you. This article told me so much about myself and my family.
Whoa.
So it's an article in The Atlantic. It's called Askers versus Guessers by Alex Eichler. I looked it up again. And I'm just going to read what the main idea is.
Okay.
Let's say your husband or wife has a friend who will be coming to your city for 2 weeks on business. This friend writes to you and your spouse, asking if you can put him up while he's in town. Has this person committed a gross violation of etiquette? Whether you answer yes or no may speak to whether you're an asker or a guesser. So the author says there's 2 types of people in the world. In some families, you grow up with the expectation that it's okay to ask for anything at all, but you gotta realize you might get no for an answer. This is ask culture. In guess culture, you avoid putting a request into words unless you're pretty sure the answer will be yes. Guess culture depends on a tight net of shared expectations. If you do this with enough subtlety, you won't even have to make the request directly. You'll get an offer. Even then, the offer may be genuine or pro forma. It takes yet more skill and delicacy to discern whether you should accept. So it'll be things like, I remember, I forget who it was, but it was when I was living with my grandmother. Somebody was visiting, and they kept mentioning, oh, the hotel that I'm staying in. Oh, it's so awful. Oh, God. Like, they just kept kind of like...
Hinting?
And then my grandmother was like, would you like to stay here? And so that was obviously like this person was asking by not directly asking.
Totally.
And she offered for them to stay. And they said, no. Like, they really like refused. And she insisted. And then she stopped insisting and they didn't stay. And then after they left, she was like, I'm so glad they didn't accept.
Oh.
So like
a delicate dance of...
It's so delicate and subtle. And it's like, it's very complicated. But that's the way that, like, especially my grandmother, who I grew up with, was very much like that. And when the article says, when an asker meets a guesser, unpleasantness results. An asker won't think it's rude to request 2 weeks in your spare room, but a guess culture person will hear it as presumptuous and resent the agony involved in saying no.
Totally.
And after I read this, I was like, oh, duh, yeah, that's my family, that's me.
Yeah. And
so my fear is, what if I ask for something and the person I'm asking
is a guesser?
Yeah. And so they're like, and so they feel obliged to say yes. And they feel put upon and they have a hard time saying no. Like, what if I'm just giving them anxiety? What if I'm just... Because it's not like when you and I, Jess, ask for something, we don't have... Well, you do maybe. But I don't have, like, a huge following on the internet. Like, when it's Amanda Palmer asking for something, she's asking 100,000 people or, like, 1 million people. So, obviously... you can say no by just not answering and somebody's going to say yes.
And I guess just to add on to that little point is like, she is also like providing a big thing. Not that we're in providing return. Something like, but like her music and her like basically her life is like for community almost. Like she's like.
Exactly.
And like, I'm not really, like.
Well, me neither. And like, it reminded me of this time when Mitch and I were living in this place in Montreal, and it's a big long story, but short version is we had to be out of our apartment the day before we thought we had to be out, and the new landlord was saying like, okay, you can stay like one night in a different apartment in my building, so great. But my brother was going to come up and help us move the next day, but he couldn't come. So, and my foot was broken, and neither of us can drive. Like, my partner and I, like Mitch and I don't, at that point, I couldn't drive. And he didn't have his license. So we were kind of like stuck with this apartment full of stuff. We had to be out by like 3 p.m. and we didn't have any money. And it was all just like, whatever. It sucked. And I went on Facebook and I went on the McGill Law, which is like the group for my cohort at school. And I said, hey, I hate to ask, but I'm in kind of a tight spot. Would anybody be able to come help us just like haul I called a mover beforehand, and the mover quoted me $200 an hour because it was like last minute, and it was July 31st, which is when everyone moves in Montreal, whatever. And so I put out this post on Facebook, and I just asked, I said, like, does anybody have a spare couple of hours to help us like carry these things down the stairs because I couldn't do it because my foot was broken. And one person can't carry
everything
furniture down the stairs. Like they can throw it and it can fall, but they can't, like they literally, we were so stuck and nobody responded. Not even a like. And like I explained the whole thing. I was like, you know, my dad is coming, but he's like an old man and like my partner is one person and I can't help. Does anybody, can you like, I asked, like I threw it out there.
Which is a super vulnerable thing because you're not an asker, right?
No, I'm not an asker. And it was so vulnerable and not a single like, not a single response, not anything.
Because no one wants to show that they have seen it. They don't want to acknowledge it because they don't want to do it.
I know. And it's like, I get it. Like I was asking for a really sucky thing. It was like 35 degrees. Nobody wants to come carry furniture. But like, I didn't know what else to do. It was like a last resort and it didn't work. And I felt so humiliated that I deleted the post after a couple of hours. And so that is my experience with throwing problems out to the collective.
Right.
And getting nothing back. And it was awful.
Yeah. I guess, like, her example of, like, hitchhiking on the highway, there's no rapport between her and the driver. But, like, with her fans, there's a rapport.
Exactly.
Which is the difference, maybe.
Yeah. The difference also is, like, that I feel frustrated about is, like, I didn't have any friends in law school. I had a horrible time on that front because I was depressed as all hell. And I had mental health issues and I was paranoid. I thought everybody hated me. Like it was just a bad scene, especially for the first 2 years. And then once... Which
is a long-ass time, 2 years. Like...
That's a long-ass time to be alone. And so I didn't make friends. I didn't forge connections. I didn't build a network. Like I had nobody. And so when I threw something out onto the page, there wasn't that like collective reception of it. Whereas there was another situation where this girl in our year who had tons of friends, huge network, huge, friendship group, her computer got stolen. And the group, she didn't even post about it. Somebody in the group was like, this girl's computer got stolen. Let's do a GoFundMe. And they raised money to buy her a computer.
Jesus.
And it's like, okay, I'm so glad that they did that.
Right.
It's just like this kind of like collective thing is not possible for everyone. Or like it's not it just wasn't possible for me and when I really, really needed it because I wasn't like
quote unquote in.
I guess like I wasn't in. I didn't have a community. Like it was technically my community. I was in the Facebook group, but I didn't have a community. So there was no help. And I guess like I don't know what I want to say about that. I just like reading this book made me think like, oh, well, very well and good for you to say, Amanda, you have 1 million people who love you. But I tried.
You're like, but what if nobody,
What if nobody fucking loves me? Which is a really dramatic way of putting it.
So dramatic.
Yeah, and then like, so that's the collective thing, and then I'm kind of switching back and forth between the collective and the individual. And then on the individual level, if I ask somebody for something, what if they're a guesser and they think I'm expecting them to say yes? So that's my other fear of asking. Which is why, like, whenever I ask anybody for something, I'm always like, you can 100% say no. I promise I won't be hurt. It's absolutely no problem if you say no. And I'll just, I have a backup. It's totally fine. You can say no. And then they say no because I've made it,
And then you're like, fuck you.
Fuck, I didn't actually have a backup.
I was bluffing on the backup.
I was just trying to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, those are my hang-ups when it comes to asking and what. And then I was thinking like, well, what does this have to do with art and creativity in my life? And I think what I came up with was, I think that putting yourself out there is essentially an ask. Like, or at least that's the way it sometimes feels. Or
right, it's like posting and asking, like that.
Yeah.
PTSD from like, posting to the law school group.
Yeah. I feel like when, like, for example, on our Art Horse Instagram, when we're posting anything, it's an implicit ask for responses, for likes, for whatever, you know, like.
Right.
But like for me, we talked about this in maybe the second or third episode, but we talked about how like I want, like, what do I want out of art? I want attention, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I feel like in the depths of my soul, when I make art, I'm like, I'm going to show this to somebody and I'm going to get attention for it.
Right. There's like a value exchange.
Yeah. And so like what I find hard about then sharing is the idea that when I post something, people are going to read it as an expectation of attention. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, like they're going to be like, oh, she just wants attention, so I will withhold it, almost.
Yeah. Or like I'm putting it out there. Say like I paint something and I take a picture of it and I put it online or whatever. I feel like the act of putting it up is this ask that somebody praise me or somebody praise the painting, and that it comes off as me expecting that. Do you know what I mean?
Because you're a guesser.
Yes.
Interesting.
And because I'm a guesser, so I feel/fear that other people are also guessers. And I worry that people are like, why is she putting this out? Is she expecting, like, why is she expecting attention for this? Why is she expecting likes? Or why is she, like, how dare she expect attention for this art? And it feels like almost humiliating.
I feel like it's so interesting because there's nothing explicitly asking about posting. It's almost more like if I was going to just take a guess, I would say that posting something that you made is more like guessing, because you're not saying, please like and subscribe. You're saying, this is something I made, which is a statement, which is exactly what a guesser would do. Like a guesser would say, if the guesser wants you to cut stuff up for the salad, they would say, supper's almost ready.
Yeah. Fuck.
You know?
Yeah.
And you just have to infer from the context clues that you are to do something ASAP. Now, basically.
Yeah. Did you move your mic?
I dropped everything. Everything fell on the ground.
You dropped all of your devices on the ground.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's really interesting about posting and asking.
But, like, that's the thing about posting as a statement when you're a guesser. A statement is an ask for a guesser.
Yeah.
It's just very subtle and implicit, but it's still an ask.
Right.
Like the woman saying, oh, my hotel is so horrible. That was an ask.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, here's this thing I made.
Here, I made this thing. And then there's this implicit, like, like it. Tell me you like it.
Yeah.
And write a comment or something. Like, I don't know. And it makes me so uncomfortable. And so when I read this maximal versus minimal DIY thing, I was like, yeah, no, I'd much rather just, like, I don't know, stay self-contained and not branch out and not seek the connection that I desire because I'm scared of coming off a certain way. I don't know.
So then I wonder, like how do you build community and connection by not?
I don't know.
Like, is it about building networks somehow?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe. Like, I think so.
Because I have definitely found that to be powerful.
I don't know. Connection and community is something that's definitely lacking in my life and probably in a lot of people's lives right now.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that you brought, like, the story of that just really not being possible and, like, going out and, like, trying to do the thing that she's suggesting and it just doesn't work when you needed it the most. And, like, yeah.
It's kind of like I didn't have anything to offer anyone who would come and help me move. So nobody responded. But,
like, even if you were like, there's a free pizza in it for you, like, I don't know that would have made enough of a difference.
No, like, I feel like I would have had to pay or I would have had to, well, yeah, I would have had to pay and I couldn't pay. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like she's saying, like, people will just help you. But it's like, no, people help you, Amanda.
Right.
Because your whole life is a project that gives something to people in the first place.
Right.
So that they want to give back. And giving back is different than giving in the first place.
Yeah. Like, there's this thing of, like, reciprocity that we all feel. If someone feels like they owe you something, then they're more likely to help you. Or, like, that you have, I don't know. But it definitely reminds me of privilege. And how, like, if you have it, it's really hard to see.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like a much purer ask and give is when the asker can't give anything in return. Mm-hmm. Like, if you ask and you say, like, look, I just need, like, a meal, and I can't pay you, and I can't pay you back.
Right.
And then if somebody gives, that to me is, like, an ideal, that to me is a real gift. Because there's literally nothing going back the other way. I don't know.
Right. And it's kind of, I think she touches on not exactly that, but she does say, like, the gift must keep moving. Like, if someone gives to you, you give to someone else, I guess, was her idea.
Yeah. And I think that's really good. And I think that would be great. I don't know that people do that.
I feel like there's a lot of research about this. I think this is a thing that people know the answer to, which is, like, when people are more likely to give without, you know?
I feel like I've talked myself in circles and I'm confused now about what I meant in the first place. But I hope that somebody got something out of it.
I think what you said makes sense.
And I hope that people still try to find the book and read it, because, like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great book and it gives you lots to think about. Mm-hmm. And I know who I'm going to pass it on to, if I may.
That's so wonderful.
I can?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about your project?
Oh, yeah. Okay. In the context of that idea by Suhin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the midst of my shitty week, I came up with an idea. And it is, I mean, for the purpose of what we're talking about, it doesn't really matter what the idea is, but I'm really excited about it. Because I've, for years, been drawing my own agendas. Like, I'll just take a notebook and I'll just, like, draw the lines and, like, make the pages that I need. And, like, this is a page for tracking my budget, and this is a page for tracking my food, and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll have, like, a week spread and whatever. But I had this idea that I would draw one that is specific to something that I have experienced, which is eating disorder and eating disorder recovery. And I had this idea that I would do it's basically like a year-long planner that gets you involved in things that you're interested in. It prompts you to, like, pick up a new hobby or get involved in the community or whatever. And the idea is that you will basically plan your life so that you basically diversify the things that you think about and do. Because, like, one of the things, at least that I've experienced with an eating disorder, is the only thing I would do would be plan diets, go on diets, think about food, plan food, think about exercise, plan exercise, exercise. Like, that was the only thing that I did.
And, like, exercise not in the context of, like, health, but in the context of, like
compensation.
Right.
Yeah. Which is not healthy. So, like, all through law school, if I wasn't working on law school projects, I was planning a diet or, you know, making some plan for how I'm going to lose X amount of weight or whatever. So I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have any friends. I wasn't involved in the community. I wasn't paying attention to my money. I wasn't doing anything else with my life. And so the idea is basically, like, to get you working on other things in your life.
Like things that you value.
Yeah, I think exactly. Action towards values, which is the whole thing.
Right.
So I want to draw it, and I want it to be, like, aesthetically pleasing, and I want it to be, like, friendly and funny and encouraging and useful. So this is the idea.
Yes.
And I told you about it the other day. I just feel so excited about the idea right now.
Yay.
And I did a bunch of work on it yesterday, but I can tell that it's going to actually be a lot more work than I thought.
Right.
Like I thought I'll just draw a bunch of pages and it'll, you know, it'll be half a day's work. But it's definitely going to be way more than that.
Well, it's a lot. Like, there's a lot to a big project like that. Like, there's a lot of outlining about what you want to make sure that you say, and, like, you wanted it to be a lot of pages.
Yeah.
So big project, but really rewarding. And I think, like, you are so uniquely positioned to make something that is, like, thoughtful and good in this, like, realm. Like, I think it's a really good. Yeah.
Thanks. And so the thing that we were kind of talking about with this project is, like, when you have a really exciting idea, because there's kind of two schools of thought, wouldn't you say?
Depends on what you're about to say. Do you have to say?
Yeah. No, wait, are you supposed to, like, read my mind? There's two schools of thought I would say. Whereas if you have a big idea that you're really excited about, tell somebody about it, and then they will
like keep you accountable and
keep you accountable.
Up.
Yeah. And you'll be like, oh, I guess I'll work on that now because I told people I was going to do it. So if I don't do it, then they'll think I'm whatever, flaky. And then that's been kind of my MO my whole life. Because I feel like I've read over and over, like, tell people your goals, or your projects, because then you'll do them. And a lot of the times in my life, it was in the context of weight loss goals. Tell people, I felt that too. Yeah, so that you don't get embarrassed when you're still fat the next time they see you. God, it's awful. Ugh. Why? It's horrible. Anyway, so that's what I do. And so the other day I told you, okay, like the second I had like a sparkling of an idea, I told you.
Well, you said something that made no sense, and I was like, I want to get behind this, but I don't understand what you're saying. Okay. You were like,
what did I say?
You said, like, what if I make an agenda and it's all, and I didn't know what, I didn't understand the context. Like, I didn't know if you were like, you wanted to do it for yourself or you wanted to like make it. And like, I didn't know how big this project was. I didn't understand the subject. I
just got so excited about it that I just like blasted it at you.
And I felt like I kind of shit on it because I just didn't, I wanted to know what I was getting excited about.
Oh, I didn't feel shat upon, don't worry.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And so the other school of thought that's kind of new, like I do follow on YouTube a couple of productivity gurus. And I know that that's problematic in a lot of ways, but they're also very helpful on like a day-to-day basis in some situations, like Matt D'Avella. Do you know him?
Is he the guy that says the subtle art of fucking? No. What does he say? Not giving a fuck.
The subtle art of not giving a fuck. Okay. That's Mark Manson.
Yeah. I was not close. Continue.
Yeah, no, Matt D'Avella is on, he's a YouTuber, he's a filmmaker, but he's recently started YouTube.
Oh, wait, doesn't he have a podcast that you recommended to me?
Yeah, The Ground Up Show.
Yes. Okay.
And he just does stuff like how to organize your digital whatever, how to organize this, and that, how to spend your time, whatever. And he and his ilk have started saying, don't tell people your goals, don't tell people your projects, because when you do that, you get this like dopamine hit, you get this excitement of...
Right. Having done it already?
Yeah, exactly. Of doing the thing without having done it already.
Right.
So then you get the hit that you're seeking already. And so you don't continue on with it because you've already gotten the sort of pleasure reward from the idea.
They don't feel moved to make it anymore.
Yeah. And I feel like that also really resonates with me.
Yeah, totally. Like you say and then you get like, you immediately lose excitement about it almost.
Yeah. It's almost like I have this really cool idea, and part of the excitement of sharing it with somebody else is like getting praise for having a cool idea.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, you can show people that you have good ideas by doing the thing or by just telling them the idea. So if you sort of do the one, it short circuits the other, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
and I think it makes me think of something that Greg says is like, ideas are cheap and free and worth nothing because like there's so many people who think they have a good idea and then never do any work towards it.
Yeah.
And then like someone else does it and they're like, oh, like they took my idea. Like they didn't take it, but like they did it and I didn't, basically.
Exactly.
You know? And I think like ideas aren't really worth anything. I think when you start to put, you know, your actions towards your values or your actions towards your ideas, like that's when it becomes real.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. It's like kind of like there's so many people who want to be, I don't know, podcasters. I don't know. Yeah. And you can want that and you can have a really cool idea for a podcast, but if you don't actually like click record and speak and, you know, post, if you don't actually do the thing, then it's still just an idea and it isn't really anything yet.
Yeah. I think there's this really interesting thing that happens, like, once you actually start doing it, like, for Greg, just to speak of his experience at, like, meetups for indie programmers, basically, who are just getting started and they haven't, you know, made their first dollar yet, or they only have ideas, you know, and like, even digital nomads, like, there's people who, once you hit after a year of being a digital nomad, like, it's different. Like, the community is different. The people are really doing it, and those are the people that you want to be around, I think. So you kind of have to, like, start working and, like, be around people who are also working, almost.
Yeah, I think it just goes to say that, like, it's super inspiring to surround yourself with people who are actually doing the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, or just something, like, anything, like, people who are
anything, true.
You know, because I think sometimes we lose sight of, like the other day we were looking at Julia Cameron, and, like, we were looking at her Instagram, we were looking at her Wikipedia page, and then, like, looking at her Wikipedia page, like, she has written so many books and, like, so many plays, and it's so crazy to look at that and go, whoa, like, one book is, you know, may feel like a mountain, but actually there could be, like, many, many more books in me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's setting your sights higher than just this one thing.
Man, her Wikipedia page was wild.
Like, whoa.
She had quite the life.
Totally. So do you want to say anything else about announcing to people what you're going to work on or sharing your plans?
Well, so yesterday I announced this plan to you, and then it made me think of what Suheen had said, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be this, like, pure ideas ass bitch. So I actually worked on this thing for, like, I want to say 4 hours yesterday.
Damn.
And I was really, like, it really kind of got me over the hump of starting.
Holy shit.
I think starting is, like, a really difficult thing in a lot of
so hard
projects, because you don't really know where to start. And so I just was like, you know what? I'll just put something on paper. And I put down 15 pages of thoughts, potential, you know, things that I could write. It could almost be like a book / agenda. I don't know. And obviously, like, this isn't gold here. Like, this isn't, like,
but you
final
gotta get
draft
it out.
stuff.
Yeah.
But you just got to get it out, and, like, I just tried to get as many ideas out as I could. And so now I have something that I can sort of shape into something else.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was really inspired to actually produce a thing instead of just having an idea.
And, like, sort of, like, reveling in the excitement of having an idea and the possibility, because I feel like it's so easy to get stuck. I feel that all the time about getting stuck in thinking about how great something is going to be, that, like, you can't
like your toilet
start
picture.
all of a sudden. Yeah, like my toilet picture. But, like, you can't start because it'll never be as great as all of the... Once you start, you'll know that it isn't great or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I feel like this is still a great idea.
It so is. No, I didn't mean to say...
Yeah.
What was I thinking of? Well, I was thinking of, like, my own experience with drawing, where I, like, really so desperately just want to put pen to paper and just draw. Like, the other day, the dog slept at the neighbor's and he didn't come home, and, like, what if he's dead in the bush somewhere? Like, we just will never know. And so I was, like, thinking about all these things that I love about this dog that is sometimes a bad dog. And, like, I love, like, when he sees me in the morning and he's just so excited that his ears kind of go back and he looks like just a seal. He has, like, a seal head. And, like, there's just, like, all of these things. And I'm like, I just want to draw all of these things that I just want to reflect on these things that I love about him, and I want to draw them. But, like, I started and I was like, this is shit. And then I stopped. Like, and so that's what I mean when I say, like, to just be excited about an idea instead of starting is like to protect ourselves from the pain of sucking, I guess.
Exactly.
But I think it's so cool that you started. Like, I think it's incredible that you took actions towards excitement and started
and I kind
working.
of like surfed in on the excitement of the idea.
Oh yeah.
Like, I kind of let that carry me into action instead of, like, I think maybe that was the key. Like, I didn't say the idea and then, like, wait for it to get stale. I kind of, like, started while I was still really excited. I think that might have been...
That, I feel like
helpful.
That's exactly what happened to me with the toilet thing. Was like I was so excited about this thing, and then the wave died. Like I didn't act on it, and then like it stopped feeling magical. Like it stopped. The vision left.
That's so weird how that happens, because
it's still the same idea. Like, yeah.
But it's like there's like a glitter, and then or not a glitter, like
it
a
was
sparkle.
Like a glitter and a glow and a sparkle of.
And then it fades, and you're like, oh, I don't even want to do that anymore.
Right, but like if you had done it when it was glittering and exciting, it would have
even just started. I feel like started so that you see that it can be a real thing.
Yeah, and like to extend your imagination a little further and like start thinking about the problems that you're going to have to solve. Like there's something really powerful about starting, because I feel like there's so many things you can't know until you start. Like you don't know what parts are going to be hard. Like, you know, like when you thought it was a half a day project and you realized like that it was actually going to be a bit, which I feel like isn't it's really easy to underestimate the size of things. Like it's very, very difficult to estimate accurately.
Totally. Yeah, this is going to take like a couple weeks maybe.
But like it's a good idea, you know?
Yeah.
And like big things are big.
Oh man. Do we want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Wait. See. So wait, is there anything, I guess you're excited about your project this week?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on that this week, and just like, because I still feel the sparkle, I still feel the glow, so I'm gonna keep reveling in that glow.
Okay. I think this week, because I've just been feeling that disappointed in myself for not drawing, you know, like I want to make more, and so I wonder if like I could come up with a challenge for myself about just drawing quickly and not thinking too hard, because I feel like just nothing is coming out. Like it starts coming out, and then I look at it and it's ugly and I stop. And I think what I need to do, like, and it's funny because something that I think is ugly, like later I look at and I'm like, oh, that's actually not bad. Like I like that, but it doesn't, totally. I can't get anything out. So I think I need to draw. And I also would like to go back out on the lake and look at old stuff. So that's what I hope to do this week. I probably won't paint myself on the toilet because the magic has died for me, but maybe it'll come back.
Yeah. If it comes back, I think it would be so cool if we like both took a stab at it.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's going to be a good week.
Yeah. And I feel, it's so crazy. Like I've been feeling so blue, so down. And then talking about this stuff and like making plans, I'm getting that like hit of dopamine where it's like, I have all these plans to do all these things.
Well, I think there's something really special. In the moment.
Yeah.
There's special about like having plans, like being able to see into the future and be excited about stuff. Because I feel like, I don't know about you, but when I feel depressed, it's like I have no prospects. That's my problem.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing in the future that feels juicy. So.
Yeah. So we need some juicy future.
Juicy future.
Yep. Yeah, okay, so thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And if you've been working on something juicy, let us know. We love seeing pictures. We love hearing your stories. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at arthorsepod. And you can send us an email. It would be so fun if you sent us a voice clip. Like, I don't know if you like recorded something and you just wanted to tell us a story and you sent us a voice clip to our email. That would be so fun. Yeah. So, yeah, our email address is arthorsepod@gmail.com.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, if it's doing something good for you, please go to iTunes and leave us a rating and review.
And also, Fiona has Twitter. Fiona Fart Horse.
Oh, also, I have Twitter. Fiona of Art Horse on Twitter. Cool. I'm tweeting into the void right now, so...
It's a good time, though.
Come talk to me on Twitter. I really like it.
Come be a member of the void.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye-bye.